There's a strange truth about highly intelligent people. They rarely look the way you expect them to. They don't announce themselves. They don't radiate the polished confidence the world worships. They don't shine in the obvious ways. Instead, their intelligence leaks through the cracks. In the pauses between sentences, in the way they study a room before speaking, in the odd routines, the intense focus, the quiet withdrawal that others misinterpret as coldness or disinterest. Carl Jung once said something far less quoted, yet far more revealing. A person who does not know himself walks in a foreign land. Most people live in that foreign land. They drift through borrowed identities, saying what they're told to say, wanting what they're told to want. They fill their days with noise, comparison, distraction, terrified of hearing their own thoughts. But you don't. You've always felt slightly out of place in the places everyone else seems comfortable. At the party, you're the one scanning for meaning, not attention. In conversations, you notice what people avoid saying, more than what they say. At work, you overthink problems everyone else ignores, because you see connections they simply cannot. And even in relationships, your mind dives deeper than most people can follow. You feel everything, analyze everything, question everything, not because you're difficult, but because your inner world is vast, layered, and constantly awake. If these subtle, unusual patterns feel familiar, not the glamorous, curated signs of intelligence, but the private ones that follow you quietly, day after day, then you may be far more intelligent and far more self-aware than you ever realized. Let's begin. 1. You overthink, but not in the way they think. People assume overthinking is worry, fear, paralysis. But for you, it's analysis. It's pattern recognition. Your mind zooms in, then zooms out, collecting details others walk past without seeing. You replay conversations, not because you're insecure, but because you're mapping emotional currents. You catch the micro-hesitation, the shift in tone, the unspoken motive behind the spoken word. You think deeply because shallow thinking feels unbearable. But here's the hidden question. Are you thinking to understand, or are you thinking to protect yourself? High intelligence often grows from early emotional survival. Those who had to read the room to stay safe grew sharp, perceptive, hyper-aware. This isn't weakness. It's the mark of someone who has learned to navigate the world with both logic and instinct. 2. You get mentally exhausted by people who talk too much. Not because you dislike people, but because meaningless chatter overloads you. Your mind craves depth, not noise. Superficial conversations feel like trying to breathe through a straw. Your brain starts scanning for exits, a door, a window, a sudden emergency you can politely invent. You're not cold, you're conserving energy. Because people forget something important. Intelligence is expensive. It costs energy to observe, to analyze, to empathize, to process every word, tone, intention, and emotional layer. So when someone talks without saying anything real, your mind simply shuts down, and you wonder, why does everyone accept so much emptiness? But this is the first sign of high IQ. Your brain refuses to stay awake for conversations that don't awaken you. 3. You feel more than you can explain. Most people believe intelligence is purely logical, cold, detached. But some of the highest IQ individuals are deeply emotional, not dramatic. Emotional. You don't just think, you feel, you sense energetic shifts. You notice emotional changes before they are spoken. Your inner world is rich, layered, and often overwhelming. This is why Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. You experience that pain quietly, silently, often alone, because you're not just reacting to life. You're absorbing it, decoding it, transforming it. You understand emotions not as chaos, but as data, signals, maps of the subconscious. People mistake this depth for sensitivity. But it's actually awareness, sharp, precise, intuitive awareness. And it's one of your rarest strengths. 4. You talk to yourself a lot. Here's something most people never admit. Highly intelligent people often have an ongoing inner dialogue. You rehearse conversations. You argue with yourself. You give yourself advice. You process emotions through language, because your inner world is your laboratory. Self-talk is not insanity. It's self-regulation. It's how you organize your thoughts, so you don't drown in them. You ask yourself questions like, what emotion is this? Why did that bother me? What am I really afraid of here? That is not madness. That is mastery. And here's the truth. The brightest minds often live with the loudest inner narrators. That voice is your compass, your analyst, your witness. Others avoid their inner voice. You confront it. That alone puts you in a rare category. 5. You can't fake interest, even when you try. If something doesn't stimulate your mind, your entire soul goes offline. You try to focus. You attempt to pretend. You push yourself to be normal, but inside nothing moves. Your mind refuses to engage. This can make you seem lazy or distracted, but it's not laziness, it's misalignment. Your brain needs challenge, novelty, complexity, emotion, meaning. You get bored not because you're careless, but because your mind is starving. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a way to live can bear almost any how." Your mind craves the why. Without it, the how collapses. This weird habit of losing interest quickly is not a flaw. It's a compass pointing you toward the places where your intelligence wakes up. 6. You prefer being alone, but not because you're antisocial. People misunderstand solitude. They think it means loneliness, withdrawal, avoidance. But for you, solitude is oxygen. It's the only space where your mind stops performing and starts existing. When you're alone, you return to your true rhythm, your real thoughts, your unfiltered instincts. You don't need noise. You don't need attention. You don't need the world validating you. You need space to think, space to breathe, space to hear yourself again. And yet here's the twist. You can be deeply social when you choose to be. You just don't bond on demand. Your relationships are selective, not scarce. You value resonance, matching energy, shared wavelength, and you feel it instantly when someone's soul fits the shape of your own. Marcus Aurelius said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This is why solitude doesn't scare you. You've built a home inside yourself. 7. You get obsessed with small, random topics. A high IQ mind is a hungry mind, and sometimes the hunger shows up in strange ways. You can spend hours researching one tiny subject that others find ridiculous. Ancient myths, psychology diagrams, micro-expressions, the origin of a word, a spiritual symbol, why humans fear eye contact, why you feel déjà vu. People ask, why do you care about that? You don't know. You just do. Because curiosity is your engine, your instinct, your compass. Your brain doesn't explore to impress. It explores because not exploring feels like suffocation. This is the habit of someone whose intelligence is wired for depth, not approval. 8. You sense when something is off, even before evidence appears. Call it intuition. Call it patterns recognition. Call it emotional intelligence. Whatever name you choose. You have it. You notice inconsistencies in people's words. You sense tension before it manifests. You catch dishonesty, not through logic, but through a subtle shift in atmosphere. Your body speaks in signals. Tightness, unease, the sudden need to distance yourself. And you've learned. You're rarely wrong. This is the mark of someone whose subconscious mind is constantly gathering data beneath your awareness. Jung believed the unconscious always speaks. And for you, it speaks loudly. You don't just see reality, you feel it. This is not paranoia. This is perception, a heightened sensitivity that protects you from people who think they can deceive you. They can't. 9. You have periods of disappearing from the world, not because you're overwhelmed, but because you're recalibrating. Every now and then you vanish. No messages, no updates, no explanations. People think you're avoiding them, but really you're reorganizing yourself from the inside out. Your mind enters a period of reflection, introspection, internal cleansing. Your priorities shift. Your boundaries strengthen. Your emotional clarity sharpens. This disappearing act isn't an escape. It's a transformation. And every time you return, you come back with a clearer mind, a stronger sense of self, and a different level of awareness. Your silence is not the absence of thoughts. It is the overcrowding of them. High intelligence requires these inner retreats, as naturally as breathing. 10. You observe yourself while you live your life. This is one of the rarest signs of all. You don't just act. You watch yourself act. You analyze your own reactions, impulses, emotions, and motives. In real time, it's as if there's a second version of you, standing slightly behind your shoulder. Quiet, objective, aware. You catch yourself getting irritated and ask, why? What's the root emotion? You notice yourself getting attached and wonder, what need is this fulfilling? You feel yourself becoming defensive and think, what am I protecting? This self-awareness isn't normal. It's a higher form of consciousness. It's emotional intelligence, woven into cognitive intelligence, until you can't separate the two. Most people live life from the inside of their reactions. You live life from the edge of them, observing, questioning, redirecting. This is mastery. This is inner evolution. This is intelligence expressed, not through what you know, but through how deeply you understand yourself. So now you know, your intelligence was never loud, never obvious, never flashy. It lived in the quiet places, in the strange habits, in the instincts you thought were flaws, in the emotional depth you tried to hide, in the thoughts that kept spiraling, because they carried meanings no one else could see. These weren't weaknesses. They were signals, clues, evidence that your mind has always worked, at a different temperature, a different frequency, a different level of truth. But here's the question only you can answer. What will you do with this depth now that you recognize it? Will you continue shrinking to fit the world, or will you begin expanding to match the size of your own mind? Because intelligence is not a label. It is a responsibility, a mirror, a doorway into a version of yourself you have not yet dared to become. And maybe, just maybe, these weird habits weren't weird at all. Maybe they were the earliest signs that you were meant to awaken, to evolve, to see life from the inside out, while others only look from the surface. The story isn't finished here. It starts here. If you're ready for the next chapter of self-mastery, subscribe so you don't miss the videos that will help you step deeper into the mind, the soul, and the psychology of who you're becoming.